Addiction is one of those things that can sneak up on any of us. I do believe genetically there are people who are more predisposed to addiction or alcoholism. And so those people have to be extra careful in the choices that they make. There's different types of addiction, right? I mean, you have behavioral addictions, which could be things, like sexual relationships, or it could be spending and gambling and stuff like that. But then there's chemical addictions that relate to like maybe nicotine or caffeine or drugs, alcohol. And those chemical addictions can really get a hold of us. They often start to form in the midst of a season of pain. Many people who struggle with underlying anxiety disorders or they're prone to depression, they also have much higher percentages of becoming alcoholics or drug addicts. I mentioned in a previous episode how alcoholism has played its number on my own life. I can tell you that one time quitting drinking, I had the thought going through my mind that it would be easier to imagine living without my left arm, just saw my left arm off, than it would to imagine living life without alcohol and whiskey. Now think about that. What does addiction do? It's like growing a limb that you become dependent upon. You feel like you can't almost live without it. And the way it starts often is you're in a season of pain, you're escaping, you start to anesthetize, you like it, and you start thinking about it more, you start taking more, it starts consuming more of your life, it starts sucking up your resources, it starts making you go inward, selfish, you start forgetting about those who you're hurting on the outside, you start getting less productive in your life, you start experiencing consequences like lost jobs, broken relationships, health conditions, and it can literally leave you in a state of utter hopelessness. I know what that's like to be in a position where I've lost so much as a result of my alcoholism. And I know that I have to live one day at a time. It's been said before, there's 2 days in a week not to worry about. Yesterday and tomorrow. We need to live one day at a time. Jesus said, do not worry about tomorrow, for tomorrow has enough trouble of its own. And so if we are going to deal with addiction, how are we going to overcome it? Well, I would say a couple things. We need to recognize first that we have a problem. Jeremiah says you can't heal a wound by saying it's not there. We have to come out of denial. We have to face the truth. We can't be living in denial, otherwise we'll stay blinded. So we have to say, I've got a problem. In AA, that's the first step. We came to believe that our life had become unmanageable and that we were powerless over alcohol or drugs or whatever it is for you. So recognizing our powerlessness, recognizing that we've become dependent, asking why it is that we think that we need these chemicals, why it is that we think we need this alcohol. There's a hole inside of us that we're trying to fill. And there's times in my own life where the anxiety is swimming and the waves are just crashing so much on my inside, it's hard to just sit in the ugliness of those emotions. I'd rather just turn them off, dial them off, take a sip, take another sip, drink it away. But that's not the way we deal with the underlying stuff. We have to learn that if we're going to become mentally healthy, we actually have to sit in the awkwardness of the unhealth of our emotions. We have to go deep into those. We have to sink into those emotions and listen to what those emotions are trying to tell us. We have to feel those emotions. We have to feel the rawness of them. We have to identify it. We have to get behind this stuff like, okay, I'm drinking. Why am I drinking? Because I'm anxious. Okay, well, why am I anxious? Because I'm worried that maybe I'm never going to get married, or I'm worried that I'm not going to have a job, I'm worried that I'm never going to be successful, or I'm worried that I'm never going to have kids. Well, why am I worried about those things? Because I don't trust God. And why don't I trust God? Because I can't sense His presence. And why don't I sense His presence? And you just keep walking back and walking back and walking back, and you want to bottom out what's going on so you can have mental health breakthroughs. And so if we're going to overcome addiction in our life, we need to recognize that addiction is a problem. We need to come out of hiding. We need to be real. We need to be vulnerable. We need to name the pain. We need community around us. We need people that hurt like we do. Like, I feel a lot more comfortable with somebody who gets struggles than the person who looks down on those who struggle. I remember Rick Warren saying this statement: when we talk about our success, it causes competition. But when we talk about our weaknesses, it brings about unity, because we all have weaknesses. The Bible says in 2 Corinthians chapter 1 that God comforts us in our afflictions so that we in turn can comfort those who are hurting. So another element to our freedom then is we have to come clean, we have to explore our life, we have to confess stuff that we need to do, but then we have to go give our life away. We have to go share our mess. We have to go turn our mess into a message. We have to go help others to stay healthy. We have to get outside of ourselves. And so that is sort of a pathway to freedom for us to consider if we are going to break the chains of addiction. If you've never been to a Celebrate Recovery, I would encourage you to look for one in a community around. I don't know if you have one at one community church or not. If you do, that's word. That's amazing. That's great. If not, maybe consider getting that started up. When I became a Christian, the first church I was a member of was Saddleback Church, and Pastor Rick Warren had Celebrate Recovery firmly rooted in place. I cannot tell you how much that helped me as a young 20-something to be able to go to church and to find a group of people who also could say, "Hi, my name is," and I'm an alcoholic, and to find hope and peace through the freedom that Jesus Christ offers.